Power Girl. Yes. I was introduced to Power Girl through the JSA. I started reading JSA. I read JSA Classified. Then I read the Power Girl part of Classified. I believe it was the All-Star Classified. Then I was intrigued enough that I bought her solo series, and I bought all of it. I read from book 1 all the way to the end. And I absolutely fell in love with this character. I find her infinitely more interesting than Supergirl. Supergirl, to me, simple. Female Superman. She arrives in a pod. She gets out of the spaceship. Depending on what story you're talking about, she's basically just the same thing. She has all the same powers, all the same abilities. She has a secret identity. She's younger, more brazen. That does make her more interesting in some ways. She lived on Krypton, so she has a bit of a chip on her shoulder because she remembers things the way they were for her, and that can be difficult for her. There's cool things about Supergirl. But for the most part, Supergirl is just female Superman. And in some continuities, very blatantly female Superman. Look at the way they decided to use her when they gave her a television series. She's female Superman. In a world where Superman already exists, and yet she's like a reporter. Like, she has her own Jimmy Olsen. Like, she has her own Perry White. Like, that television series very much sets what I'm trying to say here. Oftentimes, when people look at Supergirl, it's female Superman. Not that there haven't been interesting storylines with this character. Not that it hasn't worked. But this was infinitely intriguing. She didn't belong here. She's a remnant from another universe that folded out, and she got deposited here. She is Supergirl, but not here. That spot is already taken. Her best friend is no longer her best friend. That's the same person, but it's not. Superman, her cousin, her confidant, that's not her Superman. And, just to put it a little further, that S, that shield, that's not her symbol. It's not hers to take. It's not hers to use. Not saying she couldn't have earned it, but it's not. That's not her Flash. It's not her Green Lantern. It's not her friends. It's not her world in any way. And she has to make the best of it. That is infinitely more interesting to me than female Kryptonian lands on planet is now female Superman. Infinitely more interesting. When I was introduced to her, she was not a part of the Justice League. She was part of the Justice Society, which also set her even further apart and made her something that infinitely intrigued me. She fought alongside legends like Jay Garrick, Alan Scott. That's cool. Like, time and time again, I would encounter her and I would be impressed. And like I said, I bought her run and I loved it. I loved the attitude of Power Girl. I loved the brazenness of Power Girl. I loved the tragedy of Power Girl. She just resonated with me. I honestly loved her, and I loved that comic run. So, you can imagine my disappointment when over the years, Power Girl has consistently altered from that person. And I'm not talking about just the New 52. I read some of her history. I liked certain things I read, and I very much disliked things I read. Like when they tried to redo her origin and make her like something from Atlantis or something like that. Different things like that I wasn't a big fan of. And then, I also was not a big fan of what they did when they brought her into the New 52. And they altered the costume, and then nobody really liked that costume, and they kind of tried to give her a bit of a different personality, and then they kind of ended up having to kind of shift back to what she was to begin with, because the quintessential Power Girl run, the character, if you want to know Power Girl, if you want to feel what she is at her heart, I would tell you to read the standalone Power Girl run right before the New 52. That to me sets the standard, the classic of what Power Girl is meant to be. It's the best writing she ever got. It's action-packed, it's fun, it pulls no punches, but at the same time, it's not afraid just to play the game and be a comic book. It's funny, it's enjoyable, but it's sad, and it's tragic, and it's adventurous, and it's everything a comic book should be. Hijinks, superheroes, fun, adventure, drama, it works. Today, Power Girl is nothing more than a side character for Harley Quinn, and she is relegated to being nothing more than boob jokes in the infinite expanse of the DC Universe, and I honestly cannot stand it. I hate it. Every time I see her in modern day comics, it just brings disappointment. She stood with the JSA during the Blackest Night. Boob jokes. And I refuse to believe that this costume should relegate her to that treatment. Because I would also argue that this costume is its own level of iconic. And so I was so happy when I saw that they were going to do a Power Girl. And the one they specifically chose was this. And just looking from the outside, it looks like they really gave her some love. And I'm so thankful for that. Hey, Lexi, baby. That's my puppy. She must want to go out. I'll take her out and we'll open this. Hey, baby. Go outside. All right. Power Girl. First off, we have Stinky. Stinky is Power Girl's cat, for anybody that doesn't know, and it got that name because it refuses to stay out of the garbage. Like, it is always rolling around in trash, and for the most part, this cat is unliked by almost every single person that it encounters. Power Girl kind of ended up with the cat, is the best way to put it. There's some goofy stuff that went on with the cat. It's supposed to be missing an eye, but even in the comics, I want to say one of its eyes is just fake, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time, but it is a neat little thing to see the cat. Now, if this is the new 52 version of the cat, I don't really know anything about it. I know that it did go with her to the JSA, and I know that she ended up taking it with her when she left the JSA. And yeah, her cat. She comes with punching hands, because of course she does, you know, for punching. And she comes with, this doesn't make sense to me, trigger finger hands. That's what those are. Those are trigger finger hands. Those aren't like, hey, she's holding a glass or something like that. They're trigger finger hands. Why? And then she has expression hands, which are the ones that are on her right now. I don't understand the trigger finger hands. They don't make sense to me. I don't understand, and I'm not a fan of it at all. Like, in any way whatsoever. So, she does come with a stand, and that is disappointing to me a little bit. On a personal note, McFarlane, if the character flies, give us those flight stands. Period. If it's a Superman, give us the flight stand. I don't need it for a Batman. I need it for a Power Girl. I need it for a Green Lantern. I need it for a Superman. I need it for a Supergirl. If they fly, give us a flight stand. End of story. End of discussion. By this point, that should just be expected, personally. So, let's look her over. Starting off, the boots, very good. These are the boots that I recognize specifically from her own personal book. I remember these boots very well. These just work for me. This is very much the Power Girl from when she had her own comic run. I very much like this a lot. And of course, she has the dual knee. So she has the double jointed knee, so she'll be able to get into all sorts of flight poses and things like that, and we shouldn't have any problems there. She has the butterfly joints on the arms. She can easily, of course, T-pose. Even this is not getting in her way. Her pauldron, which I love her pauldron, by the way. I love this design. I like the pauldron. I like the small cape. I like the gloves. I like that she's wearing like the one piece, kind of like Cammy, but she has the arms. I just think that's a really cool feature. I like the exposed legs. I like the boots. I like the little buckles here. Everything about her design is something that I have always liked. And I like the bob cut, actually. I think that's something that's very unique to Power Girl in general, that she has this and she pulls it off. Because everything about her is incredibly feminine. That's a thing about Power Girl in general that just kind of screams, she screams femininity. But at the same time, she doesn't scream femininity in the same way that other characters would. She's not Catwoman. Like, she is a controlled, powerful femininity. I honestly believe that. I see that in her. I would compare her to Wonder Woman in terms of she is sexy and she is full-bodied. But she is powerful and she controls that to the aspect that she wishes. And I just think that is cool. I think that says a lot about her. she's not using it necessarily to get ahead or something like Catwoman, and she's not trying to be blatantly sexy necessarily, but she's also not ashamed of who she is or what she is, and whoever has something to say about it can eat it. I really, really have always appreciated that about this character. I honestly, truly have. So, I love the small cape. This is something that I've actually really liked about Power Girl for years, is I love the fact that she doesn't have a full cape. She has this small cape. I really like it. I like the blue gloves. This is just like a gushing session, in all honesty, because Power Girl, as I said, is one of those characters that, quite honestly, I feel like she gets, I feel like she's just mistreated. She's just mistreated. Look at that. She cuts a very, very fine figure here. Like, she just looks perfect. Like, she works, man. She absolutely works. That face is fantastic. It's done so well. She can look down quite a bit. She can look up, so we can actually fly up into the air, and we shouldn't have too much of a problem. I wish she could look a little more up, one would argue, but that's not terrible. I've seen other flight characters that can't do it. There's just enough bob and expression in the hair that we can do everything from a standing still pose where she kind of looks out at the people that are around to where she can put her head kind of up and you can see that the wind has kind of carried her hair forward to where if she is in flight and she happens to be coming down like this, it looks natural. It looks like the hair is kind of moving out of her way or like brushing a little to the side or like if she's looking down or something like that. It just, the hairdo, they nailed it, man. She has just enough in terms of the facial figure as well, where the cheeks are kind of out a little bit. She's not sullen in, but she's just, man, McFarlane nailed it. Like, wow, that's good. I am very, very impressed, in all honesty. The diaper doesn't seem to be hurting her like it has some other characters either. She's got more than enough range of movement in terms of that stuff, and this red really helps to kind of separate the body and whatnot, so the diaper never has an issue. As you can see, we've lifted her leg quite a bit up, and we're not having too much of a problem. Yes, it comes out of the diaper a little bit, and the butt has like an edge right here, but we've talked about that in the Cammy video as well. And speaking in which, McFarlane didn't skimp. He gave her what she's got. And because we're talking about Power Girl, and we have to bring it up, did she get everything she's supposed to have? One could say, yeah, I'd say she got everything she was supposed to have. They're there, okay? Don't cry about it. I'm sure people are going to say some stuff like, oh, they should have been bigger or something like that. I think that by the body dimensions we've been given here with this character, I think she strikes everything she's supposed to. I think she works. I think her chest is just big enough. It's not way too ridiculous. And one could argue, and I don't have a whole lot of other female characters that we can actually talk about this with, but if I bring down Catwoman, you can very blatantly see the two women standing side by side. I would argue she has a bigger chest. I think, especially if you turn them sideways, you can tell she wasn't skimped, but she also wasn't over-exaggerated in a way that would make her look like something out of a different kind of comic book. She's fantastic. I'm going to say it right now. We're very early in the year. She is already making a major run in my top 10 of the year. I am floored by how good she is. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go back and reread the books again. I think they hit it out of the park with this one. She is utterly fantastic. I mean, she's so good. She just threw me down a rabbit hole. I want Jay Garrick. I want Alan Scott. I would have put them together. I want my JSA trinity, as it were. Personally, that's the way I see it. Man, she's good. Guys, I know that when a character like this comes along and a guy says they like that character, it looks a certain way. It's unavoidable. Happens all the time. I know why you like Tifa. No, you don't. Because immediately what's going to come up is you like Power Girl because you want Power Girl because... No. And I think that is what makes me so mad about Power Girl in the ways she is currently handled in DC. DC does not respect its own character. In all honesty, I would rather just not see her again than see what they've currently done to her. You have an absolute powerhouse here. Power Girl stood with the JSA during the Blackest Night. She fought Superman during the Blackest Night. And she's relegated to fun bag jokes. It's disrespect to her character at large. And if you can't find a writer that can handle her, that can give her the respect that she deserves as a character, just don't use her at all. That's the way I feel about it. Because I personally like her a lot. And I think it's an infinite shame what they have done to her these last couple years. Guys, I have added Power Girl to the shelf. A figure that I didn't think I was going to get. And boy, she is fantastic. I'll be interested now that I've done this to kind of hear what some other people think about her. Like, how do other people view this character? Is she an absolute standout of the line? Is she an absolute home run? Or are there certain things that people are already calling out that they don't like about her? Because I don't see a thing, aside from the weird trigger finger hands, I don't know that I see anything here that I don't like. I think she's fantastic. I need Alan Scott and Jay Garrick now. And I need a Wonder Woman. I know I have the other Wonder Woman up there. I need a classic Wonder Woman. Please put that back on the market so Bill can buy it. Or maybe it's time for Bill just to bite the bullet and decide there are certain figures he has no choice but to go to eBay for. I don't know. I know one thing, though. She's in my top 10. I'm not even kidding. So good. Later on, guys.
I have spoken. Take what what you will from it.